Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm starving. I haven't eaten anything yet for breakfast. I need to do a grocery store run. I ran out of coffee yesterday, and as you all know, this is the worst case scenario. Running out of coffee, there's nothing that pisses me off more in the morning than waking up, opening the cabinet, and there's no coffee. I got to get things together here. All right, let's get this going. Eleanor Terrett, this will make you want to vomit. I reached out to Consensus founder Joseph Lubin for comment on the SEC dropping its investigation into ETH and what it means for their lawsuit against the agency. He told me the company still plans to move forward with it. SEC's decision, that's because, folks, the reason they're saying that is because they didn't really get off the hook completely here. The SEC's decision to close its 14-month investigation. This is Joseph Lubin. I can't even read his quote because he is so vomitous. It is completely corrupt that this guy is anywhere close to being let off the hook while Ripple's still under a lawsuit for over 3 years and had been forced to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. This guy shouldn't just be under investigation. This guy should be under criminal investigation, and everybody knows it. And so should the people that are supposed to be investigating him. I mean, that's crazy. We live in a sick, evil, crazy world, folks. Mark Fagel, who used to work at the SEC, says, did he address whether the SEC is still pursuing the case it wells the company on staking MetaMask? I assume so, as Consensus didn't say otherwise, and their legally dubious Texas lawsuit would essentially be moot if that investigation were also closed. Thanks, and then she retweets Consensus tweet. He says, thanks, yes. That's what I was referencing. I interpret that to mean the SEC has not walked away from its wells on these issues, but the company didn't come right out and say it, which meant some crypto Twitter users who don't follow you are confused. And then you've got this. I'm where Ripple Van Winkle is. I still can't wrap my head around this. Consensus sold ETH in an ICO. Consensus told people to use fake names and hide their identity when buying ETH. And yet Ripple is fighting a legal battle still for institutional sales of XRP. You are directly over the target. I said this is the problem with not having a real media in the US. We have propaganda media, which is why these government agencies get away with this crap. These journalists have zero shame. They don't ask them any questions, especially when they know there's corruption. What they're supposed to do is put that microphone in their face and ask them the questions that lead to any criminality, to keep them in check, to keep the government agencies in check, to keep corruption in check. But we've lost the country with our media, and that's the fact, Jack. So here's what people kind of say is where the market is going. Well, first I'll show you this one. Looney Tune Michael Saylor, his company MicroStrategy has acquired an additional 11,931 Bitcoin. So what we're seeing here is they're going to continue with the Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're going to lead this market and all that. Here's Paul Barron. He's glad to go back to Ethereum.
The key that many people get confused with Ethereum is that the masses don't understand it. And, I would argue that most investors don't understand AI. Most investors don't understand, the chip construct of what NVIDIA is building from a GPU standpoint. They're, of course, not in that game. They're in the game of understanding the framework of technology. And I think Ethereum can paint that framework in terms of a financial future. They laid it out there pretty extensively in that clip, and I would agree with that. I believe that is the future. I think we're going to see a much more marked position of Ethereum on this ETF. Now that you have the two key things that are starting to float into the market, which is where the average investor starts to pay attention. One, the SEC drops their lawsuit. First big step. Two, you got regulatory framework coming and they know it's coming. And three things is you've got the major political landscape that are all talking about crypto. So that all brings it to a head in the sense of it's safe. Further into this, you look at just where Bitcoin's entry points have been done. Well, guess what? The Gen X and boomers have all come in at lower positions on Bitcoin, and not bad, really. Right now, in essence, they're outperforming the 26 to 41 crowd in terms of performance at entry price. So could that be the case right now? Remember, the value of Ethereum, I think, is still very, very low at under $3,500. Remember where the big investments are being made. Big investments right now being made in probably more in the late stage millennial, boomers, and Gen X. That's where most of the money is coming in.
Okay, and then they think they're thinking the same Bitcoin Ethereum thing. I'm thinking real USD in terms of leading the market. I'm thinking that this entire market, it's like I said the other day, it reminds me of the song from REM, it's the end of the world as we know it. I believe we're looking at the end of crypto as we know it. And that's not, I don't mean by that the end of crypto. I mean the way you've seen the market is going to completely change as regulation comes in.
Coins are, probably becoming so large and important that they're now kind of too big to fail from a systemic standpoint, which is hilarious given what the legacy financial system went through.
Stable coins are too big to fail.
The banks in 2008, 2009. But stablecoins now do collectively as much transaction volume as Visa. They also are the 16th largest holder of U.S. Treasuries. That's really important because at the time when China and Japan, who used to buy 22% of U.S. Treasuries, are only buying about 7%, we need somebody else to step in and be those buyers of Treasury. And so whether it is Tether, USDC, or many other stable coins, they are now becoming one of those large holders of Treasuries. And so from the U.S. government standpoint, they're really important, and we need to make sure that they continue to buy them and hold those Treasuries. At the same time, I think what you're seeing is people realize, hey, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. I don't want to spend an asset that I think is going to go up in value over time. It serves as this great store of value. So if I do want to buy things using these new crypto rails, maybe it's better to spend the thing that's going to be worth less in the future and kind of spend the fiat money. And so it looks like there's kind of this, symbiotic relationship that is being created where Bitcoin is preserving value and stablecoins are allowing you to transact value, and they're kind of rising together.
All righty then. Okay, now this is from Wheezy. This is a Christina Littman, who is, I guess she's with the SEC. Just listen.
And then their argument that disgorgement isn't warranted because, in fact, nobody lost any money on these particular purchases of XRP. Following whenever that ruling happens, probably this summer, it's expected that both sides will cross appeal for the items that they lost. And so everybody will once again still be talking about Ripple at our next conference because it will be at the Second Circuit. Maybe we'll have a decision by then, but we'll still be talking about it.
Thanks, Mike. I'll say on the Ripple appeal point, I'll be curious to see whether the parties appeal there. I think there's some speculation that because Judge Rakoff in the Terra opinion explicitly disagreed with Judge Torres's logic from the Ripple opinion, and then Coinbase doesn't really address the Ripple opinion as much, but almost pretty explicitly adopts the Terra logic. I think there's some speculation that the SEC might just let the Ripple opinion stay there as a district court opinion and not risk, elevating it to a circuit level where they could potentially elicit bad law when they have otherwise favorable rulings in the aftermath of the Ripple litigation. So it'll be interesting to watch after the remedies phase concludes whether either party opts to.
No appeal. Check this out. This is Lynette Zhang. Listen to this.
There's already a fund where any country that's holding dollar-denominated assets can just deposit them into the IMF, and then the IMF can convert them into SDRs, and then you can convert the SDRs into yuan or any other currency. So, this is it. We are at the end now, whether or not China and Russia is going to be the next world reserve currency, the yuan or the ruble. That is, in my opinion, doubtful. I think it's more going to be the SDR because it just makes a whole lot more sense to me.
But we've also got the BRICS coming together with their different reserve currency backed by commodities, a collective reserve currency from all of these countries together backed by commodities, including gold, including oil. Do you not think that that is the more likely replacement here?
I really don't, because I don't think it's broad enough when we get into this digital currency system. I think that they still need one that is more broad. And since you're talking about a basket currency that's backed by commodities. First of all, in order
that could
for
be
them,
a digital version of that as well. A digital,
absolutely, but it has to be easily convertible. And I don't know that would be globally easily convertible like the SDR would be more easily convertible. And the weighting of those BRICS currencies can be much bigger inside of the SDR.
All right.
But then you'll have the global currency and you'll have the local currency. And that's what the dollar is going to end up being, is just a local currency.
Okay. Then we've got this. Here's Glenn Beck on the petrodollar.
Don't look now, but China's on the verge of bringing all of this together. All of the leading producers of oil under one banner, and all potentially bought and sold in Chinese currency. The petrodollar, which is why we have the lifestyle we have. You don't just get rid of the petrodollar and expect to live like we live. We are about to become Venezuela or Mexico if we're lucky. The petrodollar, the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, is on the verge of being dethroned. Mark my words, I hope I am wrong. I pray I'm wrong. But I believe this will all happen before we have a new president. The next 18 months are going to be one hellacious ride, if I'm right. I pray I'm not.
Interesting times. The AMM pool's total value locked is now 15.4 million, up 1.3 million at XRP in just one day. Check this out. This is interesting, and I think XRP. I think Mickle found this. David Schwartz testifies. This is from the SEC versus Ripple case. Look at this. Here's what he says. Well, distribution of Bitcoin was very, very hard to know at the time. So I think this means Satoshi, the original creator, probably held an enormous amount of XRP at that time. 2017, I think so. It's hard for me to say, like to compare them at that point in time. Why would you think so unless you knew him? That's the question. Now, in DAIXRP.com, I'm going to go over a couple of other, this definitely probably goes in the All the World's Stage file, but I'm going to go over some other ties between Ripple, David Schwartz, Bitcoin, Satoshi, whatever. We've seen a lot of these going around for a long time. I'll just go over a few more of them just as either a refresher or might open some eyes out there. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that here we go.